All right. What's up, everybody? We're back again. I'm here with my buddy Jim, and today we are going to talk about, it's kind of fitting because we're working with some first-time buyers. Spring, and I want to say spring market because it's really, I don't really know when the beginning and end of spring market is. There really isn't such a thing anymore. So again, this is kind of geared towards first-time buyers, and with the spring market coming up, people are going to come out looking. The weather gets nicer and stuff like that. So Jim today kind of wanted to talk about something that we're sort of working through right now with people as far as grants that are available that first-time buyers probably have no idea that are even out there for them. Okay. So,
All right, so I'm just going to jump in. Hey everybody, Jim Savela, Vice President of Mortgage Lending, Guaranteed Rate Affinity, NMLS number 223274, company NMLS 1598647. I got my disclaimers out of the way, should be all good. So, couple things. So we talk about grants and assistance, and I lump everything into down payment assistance.
Yeah,
some of it's
exactly. Because that's usually where they struggle the most, right, with that down payment.
Yeah, so some of it comes as a grant. Often it comes as a second mortgage, a second lien, and so we talk about that a little bit. But I'm not going to go into too much depth because I could talk about this stuff for probably 3 hours.
Yeah, and like we said, reach out for all the info.
You don't want to hear that. 312-446-8943. Call me.
Yeah, exactly.
So the most common stuff in Illinois is probably the IDA, which is the Illinois Housing Development Agency. So they run 3 programs pretty much at all times. So as long as I've been lending in Illinois, they've had these 3 programs. So there are 3 different down payment assistance levels. There's a $6,000 now, and I say down payment assistance, down payment and closing cost. It can be used for down payment, closing costs, or a combination of the 2. There's a $6,000 one. That $6,000 one is forgivable. So once you buy the property and you live there for a specified period of time, that grant, that money, that $6,000 just goes away. You don't owe it anymore.
Okay.
There's a $7,500 one that is deferred, and it's actually deferred for 30 years, so that you get $7,500 at closing and assistance. Again, use it for down payment or closing costs or a combination of the 2. That $7,500 comes on as a second mortgage lien on your home that doesn't have any payments due on it. So it's due in 30 years, or if you sell the house or refinance.
Refinance. Okay.
Yeah, you have to pay. So the IDA programs, you have to pay off your refinance. But $7,500 in assistance, I would say that's the one that my clients probably choose the most often, which I kind of find interesting. But the deferment is great. And then there's a $10,000 grant. The $10,000 grant is repayable over 10 years. Again, also done as a second mortgage. Repayable over 10 years at 0%, so it's just $83.33 a month. It comes as a second mortgage payment, so you make your regular mortgage payment and you pay a separate payment for that $83.33 for 10 years. If you only live there for 5 years and in 5 years you sell the house, move on to something bigger and better, you owe, 5 years, half of 10, you owe half of what's left, so you still owe $5,000, but you get to use state money for free.
Yeah, and there's no interest.
There's no interest.
No interest on
all of these. If you have to pay them back, if you have to pay them back, or when you have to pay them back, they're all zero interest programs. So they're all going to carry out there at 0% interest. So IDA does run some other programs from time to time that become aggressive. They've run some different versions of these. They always run these 3, but they've run some different versions where there's a different repayment period for some of them, and IDA gets grant money to do this, and so depending on when that grant money comes in, those programs are around for as long as that specific grant money lasts. So they had a program a couple of years ago where buyers could pay off up to $50,000 worth of student loan debt to qualify. Super popular. That's a lot. I mean, think about it, right? So people, I can't buy because I have all these student loans. Well, that was a great program. That money went in a hurry. And will it come back? We don't know. We don't know what's going to come back because we don't know how those parameters are going to come back. So the IDA programs do have a couple of limiting parameters. There are some income limits. And so you can't make above a certain amount in household income. There are some property price limits. So you can't buy a $1 million house with a housing.
If you can afford $1 million house, you most likely don't need assistance.
And then there's some credit and budget requirements or restrictions too. So minimum, in most circumstances, a minimum of 640 credit score. Some of the programs or some of the add-ons to some of the programs would have a higher qualifying credit score. But if you have questions, the best thing to do is just call me.
Yeah, reach out. Again, the key to this is just knowing what's available, having that conversation, right? You may not. There's some may work, some may not. It's just for first-time buyers out there. Talk to your lender. Actually, don't talk to your lender. Talk to my lender. Talk to Jim about it, and figure out if it works or doesn't work for your situation. And then the last thing is first-time buyer.
Yep.
That means I've never bought a house before, right? I have to have never purchased before ever.
Sounds like it, doesn't it? It really sounds like it, doesn't it?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I would think. I'm a first-time buyer.
Right? So for lending purposes, if you haven't owned a primary residence in the last 3 years, you are a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
This comes up a lot, actually.
Yeah.
There are a couple other parameters that can make you a first-time home buyer. Sometimes in the follow-up, in the aftermath of a divorce, there are some circumstances that can make somebody a first-time home buyer, even if they have immediately owned in divorce and they've gotten divorced recently. And so there are a couple different parameters around that. But yes, so there are a lot more first-time home buyers than think they are. I've got a client buying right now, closing in March, sold their last house in February of 2023. They're a first-time home buyer for our purposes.
Okay. Yeah. So again, let's say I owned my own home, and then I sold it, and for whatever reason I rented it for 3 years, and then I was like, hey, I want to be a homeowner again. I qualify as a first-time homeowner.
Correct.
Yeah. See. So again, all reasons to reach out and have conversations about this. Again, where can people reach you at? I know you're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
365, yeah, 24/7, 365. I'm like 7-Eleven. Best way to catch me is my cell. That's 312-446-8943. And what I would say and what I tell everybody is, if you're thinking about it at any time in the future, not just now, we should have a conversation. Nobody was ever sad because they were too prepared when the time came.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's never too early. Even if you're thinking about it, like you said, you're not sure,
Right.
you're still living at home, and you're just starting to think about it. It's never too early to have that conversation, and it's not scary. The hardest part about it is sometimes I think people are just anxious to be like, oh, I'm afraid to even talk about this or whatever, because they don't understand.
Yeah, well, I don't have enough money for a down payment, or I don't make enough money, or I need to work on my credit. Those are things that we should be talking about together.
Right, so eventually then you can get to that point.
Yeah,
if you're not there.
the thing is, most people that find themselves in those situations, if we don't sit down and make a plan, they find themselves in that same situation a year from now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And so we'll sit together and we'll talk about making a plan, and then we'll just check in. Hey, you were going to save X amount of money a month, or you were going to pay these things off, or you were going to deal with these collections, or you had these medical collections, and what are we doing about it? Here's some strategies to get rid of some of those things. But if we don't have those plans in place, a lot of times we end up not making forward progress.
Cool. All right. So yeah, again, if you're interested, reach out. Again, look, there's going to be people out there that say buying a house is the worst thing ever. Everybody should rent forever because of this, that, the other. It's not for everybody. If you want to be a homeowner, reach out to us. We'll get you started on the process. And like I said, it's going to be a good year, so we'll get out, get your pre-approval, and then we'll get looking. So
Perfect.
see you guys all next week-ish, I guess. Take care.
Have a great day.